My greetings to you and to all the viewers. In fact, the Israeli attacks on Yemen come after the Houthi group launched a number of ballistic missiles into the depth of Israel, and some of these missiles managed to go into the depth of Israel, especially in Tel Aviv, which has constituted a big blow to the concept of deterrence launched by Israel. And these attacks has driven Netanyahu and the far-right government to continue its plans to target what is called the Iranian axis after blows against Hezbollah and the Bashar al-Assad regime and the militias affiliated with Iran in Iraq. Now Netanyahu is trying to put attacks against the Houthis, but these attacks are not much affecting the Houthi capabilities, but it affects negatively the humanitarian situation and the Yemeni people who pay a very dear price for these conflicts and for these hits from Israel, especially that US and Britain for more than a year now, and since the formation of the most recent coalition, did not stop the Houthi attacks. So these Israeli attacks probably would affect the Houthis in a way, but this will not stop the launching of attacks by Houthis. The
Sir,
Yemeni people will pay a price for this.
Sir, can I also ask you please to share with us, how do you think the ongoing US and Israeli strikes against the Houthis impact regional stability?
For sure, these attacks by the US and by Israel will negatively affect the regional security, because it would heighten the dangers of more escalation in the region and threatening more peace and security in the region. Secondly, it would be leading to crippling the security of the Red Sea area. It will affect the international trade, especially that the US is continuing to threaten the Houthis of more military US military presence in the region. So the whole atmosphere is filled with these attacks and counterattacks, hits and counter-hits from Israel, US, and the US. This will all heighten the spread of a regional conflict and affecting the international trade in the Red Sea. So there is a need to stop all that escalation, because it is not only about targeting Yemen, but there is a need for stopping the Israeli aggression on Gaza and stopping the Israeli aggression on Syria and Lebanon. This is the thing that would lead to stopping the regional escalation. Yet Israel, US, and Britain are eager for more escalation to serve more Israeli objectives and Israeli interests.
Sir,
and the whole region is paying the price for this.
Sir, with Sana'a airport being damaged at the moment, what are the obstacles that are facing the humanitarian organizations they're facing now to deliver aid to Yemen?
For sure, the targeting of the Sana'a airport and stopping the navigation there would also be like targeting this and also targeting the head of the World Health Organization. This will give very negative repercussions on the humanitarian situation, because Sana'a airport has been the main venue for receiving the regional and international aid to the Yemenis. More than 80% of the Yemeni people are under the poverty line, and 70% are subjected to famine in Yemen. There is real dire situation humanitarian-wise in Yemen, and Hodeidah port as well, were the other most important entry point for aid to Yemen. and these are the areas controlled by the Houthis. So hitting these areas will have more dire consequences on the humanitarian situation and blocking the entry of the humanitarian aid. And this will affect the Yemeni people who are already facing grave consequences since the start of the war in Yemen in 2015 and the rising number of displaced people and refugees and the deterioration of the humanitarian and health situation and the spread of some diseases like cholera and others. So these attacks will aggravate the situation of the humanitarian issue in Yemen.
Sir, and how do you think the Houthi missile attacks on Israel, how will they shape the overall security landscape in the Middle East?
In my own belief, I believe that the Houthi attacks on Israel is coming within the context of the conflict between Israel and the United States on one side and Iran and its allies on the other. So Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the militias in Iraq and the different groups as well as Hezbollah of Iraq, it's an ongoing conflict, and Israel is trying to blow this axis, pro-Iran axis, and as Netanyahu said, he wants to change the equations in the Middle East and change the map of the Middle East. So also the fall of the Bashar Assad regime and the decline of the Iranian influence in Syria and also in Lebanon after the attacks on Hezbollah is changing the equation in the region. Therefore, the attacks by Houthi and the Iranian support to the Houthi attacks is trying to keep some kind of deterrence between Iran and Israel and to show Iran as capable of hitting Israel and Houthis capable of hitting Israel. But this will eventually lead to more escalation and the possibility of a direct war between Iran and Israel and the United States, especially when Trump comes to office, who is taking a very strict policies against Iran and the Houthis. So there is more possibility of aggravation of this conflict in the near future.
And what do you think, Mr. Ahmed, in your opinion, are the steps that the international community can take to mediate the Yemen conflict and minimize civilian suffering?
In my belief, the international community has to move and has to act to allow more entry of aid to Yemen, especially under the dire humanitarian situation. And also the international community needs to move to resolve the situation in Yemen through a political solution and implement the UN Security Council Resolution 2216 and supporting the legitimacy in Yemen, because the lack of a political solution in Yemen will get Yemen to be nothing but part of the regional conflict, while the Yemeni people pay the price. The international community also needs to move for enhancing, helping the humanitarian situation in Yemen and do that by stopping the war in Gaza and stopping the Israeli aggressions. And I think these three tracks might be the way out for this crisis, because the open-ended war between Israel, United States and the Britain against Houthis, Iran and the other parties will not end. And under the dire humanitarian situation, the international community should pressure Israel and the United States not to attack the civilian facilities and to ensure the entry of more humanitarian aid and to move for a resolution of the situation in Yemen under the UN Security Council resolutions that deal with this situation.